The world was told that Fast and Loud, one of the biggest car shows on the planet, ended because its star wanted more freedom. But that was just a story, a clean and simple explanation for a dark and complicated truth. The reality is that the show didn't just end, it collapsed, and it was canceled after a series of terrifying discoveries that proved everything fans thought they knew was a lie. The Final Breakdown. On June 8, 2020, the final episode of Fast and Loud aired, and just like that, 16 seasons of television history came to a quiet end. For 8 years, Richard Rawlings and his Gas Monkey Garage crew had been a force of nature on the Discovery Channel. They were loud, they were fast, and they were incredibly successful. The show was a ratings giant, even in its final season. So why would a network let its #1 show just drive off into the sunset? Why would a star walk away from a global empire? For months, the world was left guessing. Then, in December 2020, Richard Rawlings walked into one of the biggest podcasts in the world, The Joe Rogan Experience, and gave everyone the answer they were waiting for. He looked straight at the camera and said the words fans had been dreading. Fast and Loud is no more. He explained that he had left the Discovery Network and was now a free agent. He painted a picture of a man trapped in a golden cage. He told Joe Rogan that his contract with Discovery was so tight it controlled his entire life. He claimed he couldn't even post a picture of a car he bought on his own social media without getting the network's permission first. He wanted to evolve, to grow the Gas Monkey brand in new ways. He told Rogan he was dreaming of starting his own automotive podcast, a place where he could talk directly to his fans without a filter. But the contract wouldn't allow it. Even worse, he revealed a terrifying clause in his deal. If he ever said anything bad about the network, he could be fined up to $25,000 for each and every comment. He felt stuck. He said that the pandemic of 2020 gave him time to think, to reflect on his future. And in that quiet moment, he decided to walk away from it all in the name of freedom. It was the perfect story. A self-made man, a Texas hero, standing up to a giant corporation to reclaim his independence. It made him a folk hero, but was it the whole truth? Not even close. You see, a show that popular doesn't just end because of a contract dispute. Richard Rawlings wasn't just running towards freedom. He was running away from a fire that had been burning behind the scenes for years. The first crack. To understand why Fast and Loud really ended, we have to go back. Back to a time when the show felt unstoppable. Back to when the dream team of Richard Rawlings and Aaron Kaufman was the most powerful duo in the car world. Richard was the fast-talking dealmaker, the face of the brand, but Aaron, the quiet, bearded genius, he was the soul. He was the master mechanic who could turn a pile of rust into a work of art. Their chemistry was the engine that powered the show. Richard found the cars, and Aaron made them legendary. Fans loved them. They were brothers in grease, building an empire together. But behind the cameras, a deep crack was forming in their friendship. In a shocking episode that aired in March 2017, that crack split wide open for the world to see. Aaron Kaufman, the man they called the Bearded Wonder, told Richard he was leaving Gas Monkey Garage for good. On the show, Richard looked heartbroken. He seemed completely blindsided, like he was losing his best friend. He even said later that the decision came completely out of left field. But some people who were there say that emotional scene was totally scripted, that Richard knew for a long time that Aaron was on his way out. So what really happened? What could possibly break up a team that strong? In an interview, Aaron finally laid it all out. He explained that he and Richard had started to live in two different worlds. Aaron was an artist. He wanted to build bigger, more complicated cars. He wanted to push the limits of what was possible. But Richard was a businessman running a TV show. and the show demanded cars that could be built fast and sold for a quick profit. The deadlines were brutal. Aaron said he was tired of the unbearable pressure to deliver a finished car every few weeks. His passion for the craft was being crushed by the needs of television. But it was deeper than just deadlines. Aaron admitted there were growing personal issues and professional differences of opinion. The conflict became so bad that in another interview, he confessed that he and Richard were having difficulty even being in the same building together. It was Richard's building, Richard's show, and Richard's vision. And Aaron's vision no longer fit. He saw a fork in the road and knew he had to take a different path. Richard tried to downplay the loss. He wrote on his blog that it would be an insult to the rest of the crew to say the garage couldn't survive without Aaron. But everyone knew this was different. This was the end of an era. The dream team was dead. Aaron Kaufman wasn't just the lead mechanic. He was the creative heart of Gas Monkey Garage, and when he walked out that door, the soul of the show walked out with him. The Gas Monkey Exodus. After Aaron Kaufman left, the message from Gas Monkey Garage was clear. The show must go on. But how could it? The magic was gone. And soon it became obvious that Aaron's departure wasn't just a one-time problem. It was a symptom of a much bigger disease. A dark pattern was emerging inside the walls of the world-famous garage. Key members of the team were disappearing one by one, and their stories all had one thing in common: Richard Rawlings. Two other fan favorites, Tom Smith and Jordan Butler, were the next to go. They didn't just quit, they were fired. And the story of why they were fired is one of the darkest secrets in the show's history. According to Tom Smith, it all started when a fan came to the garage. This fan had cystic fibrosis, and his dream was to get a picture next to one of Richard's prized cars, a beautiful Rolls-Royce. Tom and Jordan thought it was no big deal and let the fan pose for a photo. But then Richard found out. Smith claims that Richard exploded with anger. He allegedly used horrible language and screamed at the fan to get away from his car. When Tom and Jordan tried to defend the fan, the argument got even more heated. The next thing they knew, they were both out of a job. They were fired for letting a sick fan take a picture. This story painted a disturbing picture of what it was really like to work for Richard Rawlings. It suggested a place where a car was more important than a person, and where loyalty was a one-way street. But the story gets even stranger. After being fired, Tom Smith and Jordan Butler didn't just disappear. They teamed up with a few other former Gas Monkey employees and started their own shop called Fired Up Garage. And soon they had their own TV show on the Discovery Channel called Misfit Garage. The show was presented as the ultimate rivalry. The fired employees, the Misfits, were getting their revenge on their old boss. On camera, Richard would show up at their shop, making fun of their builds and acting like their biggest enemy. It was great television. A classic story of the underdog fighting back against the powerful villain. But what if I told you that the entire rivalry was a lie? What if the terrifying discovery was that this epic feud was completely fake, manufactured from the very beginning? Because behind the scenes, a shocking secret was hidden from the viewers. Richard Rawlings, the man who was supposed to be their rival, was actually their landlord. The Misfits were paying rent to the very man they were supposedly competing against. And it gets even worse. If you look at the credits for Misfit Garage, you will find a familiar name listed as a producer: Richard Rawlings. He wasn't their enemy. He was their boss all over again. He had fired his employees, created a fake rivalry, and then sold that drama back to the audience as a brand new show. He was profiting from their firing. It was a level of manipulation that was hard to believe. The on-screen drama wasn't just scripted. It was a business strategy. And this was just a glimpse into how far the show was willing to go to fake its own reality. Unmasking a fake reality. But the deception ran much deeper than just one spin-off show. As fans started to look closer, they began to realize that key parts of Fast and Loud itself were completely fabricated. The show that was supposed to be a real look inside a custom car garage was starting to feel more like a Hollywood movie. And the terrifying discovery was that almost nothing was what it seemed. One of the most famous examples was the story of the two Pontiac Firebirds. In a Season 4 episode, the Gas Monkey crew supposedly stumbled upon an incredible barn find. Two 1967 Pontiac Firebirds that the show claimed were the very first prototypes ever made. They said the cars were worth a fortune, maybe over $300,000. It was the kind of discovery that car dreams are made of. The only problem? The story was a total lie. Car experts and internet detectives quickly exposed the truth. The Firebirds weren't priceless prototypes. They were just regular consumer models. And they weren't found in a dusty barn. They had been sold on eBay for about $30,000 shortly before the episode was filmed. The entire amazing discovery was staged. It was a fake story created for television. This was a massive betrayal of the audience's trust. And the fakeness didn't stop there. The show often made it seem like Richard Rawlings was a master negotiator, making spontaneous deals on the spot with a huge wad of cash. We would see him show up, talk to an owner for a few minutes, and walk away with a classic car. But in reality, most of these deals were worked out long before the cameras ever started rolling. The dramatic negotiations were just an act for the show. Even the clients who brought their cars to the garage were often not who they seemed. Many of the so-called random customers were actually hand-picked by the show's producers to fit a specific storyline they wanted to tell. Even the builds themselves were sometimes misleading. The crew once worked on a modified Dodge Dart they called the Shart Cat. The car was full of technical problems, especially with its computer system. On the show, it looked like the Gas Monkey mechanics fixed these complex issues almost overnight. But the truth was very different. The car's computer had to be completely rebuilt by an outside company that specialized in that kind of work. It was a long and difficult process that was hidden from the viewers to make the Gas Monkey crew look like miracle workers who could solve any problem in a few days. When you put all these pieces together, a dark picture begins to form. The show was systematically faking its own reality. The scripted arguments, the staged discoveries, the fake negotiations. It wasn't a reality show about building cars anymore. It was a scripted drama that used real people and real cars as props. The ultimate terrifying discovery for fans was that the show they had loved and believed in for years was largely an illusion. And the chaos on screen was nothing compared to the chaos happening in Richard Rawlings' real life. The Empire on Fire. As the Gas Monkey brand grew into a global phenomenon, the pressure on Richard Rawlings became immense. He wasn't just the star of a TV show anymore. He was the face of an empire that included the garage, TV shows, merchandise, and even restaurants and music venues. But the bigger the empire got, the more it seemed to spin out of control. The on-screen drama was bleeding into the real world, and soon Richard found himself drowning in a sea of lawsuits, scandals, and personal secrets. The biggest explosion happened in 2018. Richard Rawlings was sued for a staggering $6 million. And who was suing him? Not a stranger, not a rival, but his own business partners from the Gas Monkey Bar and Grill. The lawsuit was a messy public battle. His partners accused him of defamation, claiming he was making damaging accusations to try and get out of his contract with them. It was a shocking turn of events. A man was being sued by the very people who had helped him build his brand. Richard fired back with his own lawsuit, accusing them of misusing the Gas Monkey name. He claimed the bar was hosting inappropriate events that were hurting the family-friendly image he wanted to create. This was a strange claim, coming from a man whose TV persona was built on fast cars and hard partying. The legal fight got ugly, with both sides throwing accusations back and forth. Finally, in August of 2021, they reached a settlement. The bar was rebranded with a new name, completely cutting all ties to Richard Rawlings and Gas Monkey. The empire was starting to crumble, but that wasn't the only scandal attached to the Gas Monkey name. The bar was also caught up in a sting operation by the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. Investigators found that the bar was replacing expensive, premium liquor with cheaper, subpar substitutes and selling it to customers at full price. It was another dark mark on the brand's reputation. While his business life was on fire, his personal life was also falling apart. Richard has been married 3 times, but only to 2 different women. He divorced his second wife, Suzanne, in 2009, right as his career was taking off. He later admitted that his constant traveling and the pressures of building his empire were to blame. They got back together and remarried in 2015, but it didn't last. In 2019, they divorced for a second time. The stress of being Richard Rawlings was clearly taking a huge toll. The lawsuits, the scandals, the failed marriages. It all painted a picture of a man whose life was spiraling. The Gas Monkey brand had become a monster, too big and too chaotic to control. Where are they now? When the smoke cleared and Fast and Loud was officially over, the key players went their separate ways. And the paths they chose tell you everything you need to know about why their partnership was destined to fail. They didn't just move on. They moved in completely opposite directions, each one finally free to pursue the vision that had torn them apart. Richard Rawlings, the man who said he wanted to escape the spotlight, did the exact opposite. He leaned into being a media personality more than ever before. He walked away from traditional television, but he didn't walk away from the cameras. Instead, he built a media powerhouse on YouTube. His channel, Gas Monkey Garage and Richard Rawlings, is massively successful, with millions of subscribers and new videos coming out every week. He's still the face of the brand, unveiling incredible custom builds at huge events like the SEMA show in Las Vegas. He even sold off a huge part of his famous car collection, not to retire, but to get money to invest in even bigger and better cars. For Richard, the show never really ended. The stage just got bigger. Aaron Kaufman, on the other hand, chose a much different road, a much quieter one. He completely stepped away from the world of high-pressure reality TV car flipping. He founded his own shop, Arclight Fabrication, a place focused on his true passion. He doesn't build cars for a quick sale. He meticulously designs and manufactures high-quality aftermarket parts for classic Ford F-100 trucks. He did have his own TV show for a couple of seasons called Shifting Gears with Aaron Kaufman. But that show was different. It was slower, more technical, and focused on the craft of building extreme vehicles, not the drama of selling them. He has mostly stayed out of the spotlight, but recently he hinted that he's working on a new entertainment project, one that he says will be a true celebration of custom car culture. It seems Aaron is finally getting to make the show he always wanted to make. And what about the other familiar faces from the Gas Monkey crew? Their lives after the show have been just as varied. Tom Smith, the lovable jokester who was fired, has found a new career as a stand-up comedian. In a surprising twist, he recently returned to the Gas Monkey YouTube channel to sit down with Richard for a reunion, proving that some fences can be mended. Christy Brimberry, the office manager who kept the chaos in check, bravely fought and beat cancer and now works at her family's salon. Mechanic Mike Coy landed on his feet and is now a star on the Netflix car series Tex-Mex Motors, and Sue, the upholstery queen, is still running her successful shop. Life after Fast and Loud went on for everyone, proving that the end of the show was not the end of their stories. In the end, Fast and Loud wasn't canceled because of a contract. It was canceled because of a series of terrifying discoveries that could no longer be hidden. The discovery that a brotherhood at the heart of the show was broken beyond repair. The discovery that the reality fans loved was carefully scripted. And the final terrifying discovery that the Gas Monkey empire was so consumed by fame that it was burning itself down from the inside. The show's end wasn't the tragedy. It was just the moment the world finally got to see the wreckage.